Now.
Hey.
Hey, so Zoom's doing its streaming bit, but I've got no doubt we'll be probably live like we normally are on Facebook before Zoom. Yes, we are live right now. So Zoom is actually saying it's still streaming to it and it's just setting it up, but we are actually live. So welcome to Mic Drops Up Close, Jaime Keeling. Let's give you a quick overview of Jaime. He is an Optimize Me specialist. That's the company name. So he helps you optimize your companies. As I put in the actual preview promotional material that I put out there, you actually assist businesses of for 500k plus turnover, struggling with profitability, performance, and failing systems, and you help go in, optimize them. So we're going to talk about how you can help our listeners in their business, how they can optimize themselves. Obviously, they can hire you to get it done properly, but let's give them a few mic drops, give them a few tips whilst we're on the podcast, and also I want to touch a bit on you and your background and how you got into this and where you started from, because obviously you saw a niche here that you wanted to connect with, and you've made it your superpower in business, and you're highly sought after and a really top guy and a fantastic friend. So obviously, you know, I put the two things together. My podcast, you're perfect guest for it. So welcome, Jaime Keeling, to Mic Drops Up Close.
Thanks very much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. What an honor.
Thank you. Well, I want to first ask you, give us a bit of a background, a summary of what your business does essentially. I mean, I've given a very short, overview, but you give us a more thorough background of what you do. As an example, maybe current project you're working on now or one you've done in the past, an example to give an explanation, because there might be people watching that would want to connect with you, that you are the ideal, person to come in and help them. And also give the people that that aren't at that level yet, that maybe they could be a little bit more prepared when they get to that sort of moment in their life, in their business, to be thinking about systemization and bringing in people and specialists like yourself to help them really scale.
Sure. So I do work with businesses of all kinds. I've got businesses in my various programs from 5 figures right up to multi-7 figures. But it's really about, if you're going to work with me on one of the higher level programs, it's about taking a business that's kind of low to mid 6 figures, so around the 400 or 500k mark, and like you say, optimizing it in such a way that we define the structure of the business, we set the scorecards for the business, and then we build systems and processes around those things that deliver consistent results. Now, I like to say to people that business isn't difficult, right? It's as simple as find a problem, create a product or solution around that problem, and then go and sell it to people, the people who need it. So in that sense, business is really, really simple. What catches people out is the stuff that sits behind all of that. How do we facilitate those activities? It's the infrastructure that supports the business. And so what I do is I'll go into businesses and we'll, at the very, very start, we'll establish exactly where they are right now. And then we'll establish where they want to be. So what are their long-term targets and goals? Because until you know what point A and point B are, you can't build a roadmap to get you from one to the other, right? So it's really important to establish those facts first. But then the roadmap, the process of building that journey, is first about structure. So we look at the organizational chart of the business in a very similar way to the way that the E-Myth sets it out. So we think, okay, if the business is at 5, 10, 20 million, what would that organizational chart look like? So we throw away all of the current people in the business, the current roles, and we essentially start from scratch. So we start with a clean slate. We start with the shareholders, then the MD, and then we break down the executive director team, the management team, and the operative level teams. But it's only about roles, and we're going to add the people later. Once we've got the structure defined and we know then where the clear lines of accountability are, who is responsible for what and who reports to who is ultimately responsible for getting a certain result in a certain department. That's so important. Once we've done that, we then look at the KPIs, the key performance indicators. So for each one of those roles, we then devise 3 to 5 specific numbered KPIs which define success or failure. But the most important part of that process is that we start with the business level KPIs.
Mhm.
So what do we need to know in order to determine whether the business is being successful or whether it's failing? So typically those could be things like net profitability, annual revenue growth, customer satisfaction, cash flow reserves, that kind of stuff. So we'd set very specific numbers that are tangible and measurable so that we know that when those numbers are at a certain level, the business can be considered successful by the owners. And that's different for different businesses in different niches, because everybody's definition of success and failure is different, right? You know, my version of success is perhaps different to yours, and yours is perhaps different to that of your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that we look at this on an individual one-to-one basis. And that's why the focus of all my coaching at this stage is all on one-to-one, because I mean, the biggest reason for that, if I'm honest, is that the coaching that I've had and do currently have that is one-to-one gets me way better results way more quickly than the group coaching stuff, the masterminds and all that kind of thing. Now, are masterminds a waste of time then? No, absolutely not. You know, they all have their place. But if I had the choice and I could only pick one, I would go for one-to-one coaching every time. And so for me, I know that where I can, like, it's all about results for me. I'm a peak performance specialist in every way. You know, a big part of my life and my focus, yes, is business and entrepreneurship, but whether it's martial arts, health and fitness, relationships, mindset, I'm a big believer in hacking every part of who we are, our physiology, our mental capacity, our spirituality, our emotions, so that we can produce the very best results possible in our lives. So it's about kind of finding the best way to do things. When it comes to business, it's determining what are the key things, where are the key areas that we need to see success, and what does that look like? But defining that then in a way that always relates back to those top level KPIs. So when we're setting the KPIs for the exec director level and the management level and the operative level, they should always relate back to one of the previous levels KPIs, which all ultimately relate back to the business level KPIs. Because then we know that every activity, all the focus in each aspect of the business is geared towards producing a successful business as defined by the owners. Once we have that, now we know what information we need to measure and manage. See, until we've done the first part of this process, until we've defined the structure and the scorecards, well, we don't know what information needs to be passed down from the management team and passed back up as feedback to the management team from the operatives, from the people who are literally boots on the ground delivering for the business. So the systems and the processes side comes once we know what information needs to be transmitted. So strategy gets transmitted down from the management team, from the shareholders, from the board of directors, and then feedback gets fed back up the chain from the people on the front line, the operatives and the managers, so that the people at the top, the leaders, the people managing the business, can improve the strategy, evolve that strategy over time, look at what's working and what's not, and improve the things that aren't working so well, and even improve on the things that are working well, because you can always do better, right? And it's only once we've done all of this that then we start looking at improving net profitability and actually scaling the business. And this is a big mistake that I think a lot of businesses make, and it's certainly a mistake that I made myself in my previous business. You know, we grew from 2.2 million to 4.5 million in revenue in just 12 months, which on the face of it sounds like a phenomenal achievement. And in so many ways it was. But what we failed to do was we failed to do the groundwork. We didn't build the foundations. And so then we hadn't even built the foundations for a £2 million business. So we were kind of still at six-figure level in terms of the infrastructure.
Outscaled,
yeah. And then when we scaled to 4.5, it was like, oh my God, like money just kept pissing out of the bottom of the business. You know, all of that profit that we should have made was just evaporating from the company because we were working ineffectively, inefficiently. The different parts of the business weren't communicating with one another. And we had this nightmare situation where everybody was doing a bit of everything, right? So there wasn't one person responsible for sales, one person responsible for design, one person responsible for project management. It was kind of this cacophony, this mess of everybody doing all things.
Mm-hmm.
And the big challenge with that is that there's no accountability, there's no responsibility, and you can't deal with the problems that arise. And so what we saw was the same challenges, the same problems, the same things that kept costing us money unnecessarily were cropping up time and time again, and it became very, very frustrating. So the first thing I did after we'd grown the revenue was I looked at structure. We implemented the organizational chart. We added accountability. We appointed heads of department with clear KPIs that defined success and failure. And now, yes, there were still problems in the business, but we could pinpoint exactly where those problems were, and we could deal with them. We could sort them out. Whereas before, when we would try and deal with those challenges, it was a case of, oh, well, I thought Chris was dealing with that. Oh, well, I thought Martin was going to do that. Oh, no, Kim said she was going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and that happens even in big business. I mean, I was at the BBC, and there's elements of that. It happens in all organisations, definitely. Really important.
Absolutely, and it's a result of unclear or ill-established lines of accountability. Accountability is massive, not just on a personal basis in terms of your own personal development and the things that you want to achieve and working with coaches, but at an organizational level. Everybody has to know what they're responsible for. And it's not about this blame game of, oh, well, it's your fault that this went wrong, or your fault that problem happened. That's got absolutely nothing to do with it. We're not about blame culture. But what we do need is a high level of personal responsibility, because when we have that, people take extreme ownership of their roles. They know how success and failure is defined. And because they know that, they then perform at a much higher level. One of the big problems with staff, team, and employee performance is just that, is that success and failure for their role hasn't been clearly defined by the leadership team. And so, goalposts move. One day they expect this, the next day they expect that. Everything's changing all the time, and there's no consistency in, well, what is, how do I actually succeed in this role? Because even the worst employee, it's not their fault. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, do you know what, today I just want to fail. I just want to piss off as many people as possible. I'm going to screw up everything that I can. People just don't wake up and think that. I don't care who you are or how problematic you see a particular person to be in your business. If you've got somebody who is a problem like that, that is your responsibility. You as the business owner are responsible for everything in your business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if people aren't performing, that's always because you either haven't trained them properly, you haven't mentored them, you haven't coached them, or you've kept somebody on when they're clearly not good fit for the business. All of that's on you. And when you start to take responsibility and that level of accountability personally, not only does that trickle down to the entirety of the rest of the business, but it gives you the power to change the things that aren't working and to improve upon the things that are.
Can I ask a quick question, Jamie? Plug in right there. In that situation, would you say, again, it goes right back to when you actually interview your employee? And asking quality questions right back then? Or is it a matter of putting processes in and training them up, because anyone can be sort of like trained up to a certain level? I mean, which one would you say? Or was it a bit of both? What would you suggest?
It's absolutely both, mate.
Right.
Yes, it absolutely starts at the beginning when you're first doing those interviews, and the interview process is a really important part of that. And the way I teach it in my accelerator programs is you don't hire on skills, or at least that's the last thing that you look at. The first thing that you should be looking at when you're hiring staff is values. Are their values in line with yours and in line with the values of the business? Because it doesn't matter how skilled they are or how much experience they've got in the area that you need. If their values are misaligned with yours and those of the business, they're going to be a problem. So first we hire on values. Secondly, we hire on attitude. Like, they could have great values, but if they haven't got the right work ethic, if they haven't got the right attitude towards your customers, towards their team members, towards the business, towards the industry, then again, you're flogging a dead horse.
Yeah, so true.
Not going to produce the results that you want. So but here's the thing, right? Skills can be taught. Somebody with the right values and the right attitude can be taught anything that they need to know to perform at a very high level in their role. Now, yes, that's an investment of time, energy, and often money in order to get them there, particularly if you're taking them from a place of complete inexperience. But in my experience, that investment up front pays dividends in the long term, certainly much more than hiring the wrong people in terms of values and attitude. They have all the skills and expertise, but their values are wrong. Their attitude is pants. It doesn't matter how much experience they've got. You cannot teach values and attitude. They are what they are in so many ways.
So true.
Now, they may evolve over time for a given person, and I'm sure they will. But in the moment when you're hiring, it's very, very difficult for you to affect any meaningful change in those two areas, which is why that's what we look at first. So long as the values and the attitudes are in alignment, it's often then worth the extra time, money, and effort that it takes to provide the extra training and the extra coaching that person's going to need to get their skill level and expertise up to a point where it's going to serve you.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, like, would you say that people that are starting out, they're not at that level yet? They just want to start off a business. There could be people, literally they've got a dream, they got their entrepreneurial desires brewing within them, and they want to get started, but they don't know where to begin. Would you say that they don't need to optimize when they're so small, or would you say start from the beginning no matter what? Go ground up, start from the beginning, because there's a lot of truth in start now, get perfect later, because people procrastinate. But also, there's a danger of getting stuck in your ways, and not even seeing the flaws and the things the hurdles that you've created by not systemizing and optimizing. What would you say? What advice would you give people really just starting off right now?
Yeah, I mean, one of our coaches, Nick James, talks about this, and you need different things to get you to different levels. One of the things that we found was what got us to 2 million revenue wasn't going to take us to and sustain us at 5. What got us to 5 wasn't going to take us to and sustain us at 10. So, do you need a big, massive organizational chart and systems and processes and all of this stuff when you're just starting out? Honestly, no, because it's just you. There's nothing to control. All of the information is up here in your head. And so you don't have to, it's only when you've got multiple moving parts that you then need to start to control that. You hold yourself accountable. You have all of the information, the strategy, the operational feedback up here in your mind. And so there's no point in spending time and energy on devising and maintaining systems that are basically a replica of what's going on here in your head, right? So, but what I would say is you have to be clear on exactly where you're going with the business. Now, if the plan from the get-go is to take it to a multi-million-pound turnover business, then you need to be starting to think about those things sooner rather than later. Absolutely. And there are some cases where you might start a business that grows very, very quickly in terms of revenue. There's a guy that I know and done some work with down in London. It's a recruitment agency. And they're very quickly growing to that multi-million turnover level in the first year because know the business, that you've been in the industry for a long time, and it's very easy for them in terms of just going out there, getting the contracts and getting the work. In that case, they need to be doing this stuff right now. As soon as you start thinking about taking on people, that's when you need to start thinking about defining the structure of the organization, defining what your KPIs are that determine success and failure, and building systems that control the outcome of consistent results. But that said, at any level, you need to know how you define success and failure in your business. So even if you're only turning over 20 grand a year, well, you've got to have KPIs that determine whether the business is performing at the level that makes it worthwhile for you. What net profitability do you need to see in order for this to be viable, in order for it to be a business rather than a hobby? How much do you want to grow it month on month, year on year? If you don't have targets, then the danger is that you're going to meander through the journey of business and not get to where you want to go as quickly as you should, because you've not defined clearly what that destination is. And if you don't have A and B, like I said before, if you don't know where you are now and exactly where you want to be, it's very difficult to build a meaningful roadmap that gets you from one to the other in as straight a line as possible. You've literally got to mow a line down through the trees to get you to where you want to be as quickly and as effectively and as efficiently as possible. Right? Why waste time and money that none of us have got in just kind of meandering and figuring it out as you go along, where you could be very clear from the outset, set your intentions, know what your targets and goals are, and get there much, much more quickly.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's absolutely true. I struggled massively starting off, and I did a lot of different things, but it got even worse when my son was made disabled. And it's like it's a narrative I say a lot because it is my life. I'm not doing the old, sad story stuff. It is what happened. Do you know what I mean? And the what advice would you say to people that have got a lot of other things that are juggling on? Would you say to them that it's just far better to just bring someone in like yourself to come and do the thinking for them, to some degree? I know you don't go in there completely, run the business for them, but or would you say that they are better off sort of being coached as such, learn techniques, because you said you use a overall approach, and it includes even the way they're living healthy wise and all this kind of stuff. It all relates, doesn't it? What would you advise?
Well, yeah, it does include everything. I mean, like as a coach, you have to be very specific in terms of what's your speciality, what's your skill set, your niche. But even as a business coach, I'm very much focused on the systems and processes side of it. Profitability is one of the main reasons why people work with me, and to grow sustainably and profitably as well. Mm-hmm. That's one of the main aims of our accelerator programs, is that, we want to make sure that you've got a strong business first, and then scale something that's strong and that is actually scalable, rather than making the same mistake that we made and scaling something that actually isn't sustainable long term. Mm-hmm. But what you find is you absolutely end up working in all aspects of the business owner's life. There are clients I have where we talk about their home life, and we talk about marriage, kids, health and fitness, and personal goals. And you're absolutely right. All of that stuff feeds in. And when you've got a lot of stuff going on, it's really, really important to be structured and systemized. Make sure that everything that can be automated is automated. Like my clients, in terms of the a basic thing like invoicing, they pay monthly, so the invoice has to be generated every month. But I don't do that. I set Xero to do that for me. If I was adding that and other jobs to my to-do list, then it would be taking me all this extra time every month. It just wasn't necessary. So it's a case of looking at everything that you're doing and asking yourself, right, what can I systemize? What can I automate with what I've got? And then doing that as much as you possibly can. But then the other thing I would say is that you need to be very diligent when scheduling time. You have to be clear on, right, how much time do I need to dedicate to the things that I'm doing this for? That's first and foremost. When you get your plan for the year, you start Q4 of 2019, you start looking ahead to 2020. The first thing that you should block out on that calendar is your holidays for the year.
That's what I teach my mentees. I say exactly the same thing. Not just that, I teach them like with social media posting and stuff like that. I say just block out the time you want to do for yourself, because it'll keep you sane, number one. It'll keep you more proactive when you're doing it in your business. So I'm totally advocate for that. Definitely, I think it's really key. Definitely. I mean, we always come out of it though, don't we? I mean, as entrepreneurs, but at least you've got a structure to try and keep to. At the minute, like now, I'm non-stop working because I've got a lot to catch up on, and a lot of that was due to like technical issues and bloody issues with my health, being ill, and so there's a lot to catch up on. But that's so important, having these things in place. Without doubt, I agree with you on that.
So you block out the time for you and your family first, because at the end of the day, no matter what you might say, we do what we do. We have our business so that we can live the life we want, so we can have options, so that we can spend our time in the way we want to with the people that we love, right? That's what it's all about. And I think it's very easy as entrepreneurs to lose focus of that, particularly when you're perhaps more in your masculine energy, in that you're so focused on and dedicated to the mission of growing the business and impacting the world and changing lives and all of this stuff that we do, that it can be easy to lose focus of the things that truly matter. And the reason why we started doing it in the first place. And one of my biggest motivations is my kids, partly because I want to be able to provide them an amazing life that, you know, full of experience and to meet interesting people, to go to interesting places and to be cultured. But mainly more than that is because I want them to see that if they decide they want to do or be something, they can do it. All they need to do is put the work in, put the time, put the effort, and they can achieve. You know, I'm not special. You're not special. Like, none of us are special. Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they're not special. They just worked fucking hard to get to where they are today, right? And they put the time in, they expended the energy. And the more and more you study excellence, the more and more you study success, the more you see and realize that actually it's just a numbers game. Like, I would never have believed back in 2013, if you'd have said to me back in 2013 that I would be sat here today in 2019 with a world championship title and probably around 50, 60 other medals and trophies from various competitions all over the UK, I'd have quite frankly laughed in your face and thought you were you'd been smoking something, right?
Yeah.
But like, I was a couch potato. I was bullied in school. I'd never thrown a punch in my life. I used to have recurring nightmares about getting jumped by gangs of people, and I couldn't even scream. No sound would come out of my mouth, and all this kind of stuff. And then within 2 months, like just 2 months, I won my first 2 gold medals at a competition in Cardiff, and that was it. I was hooked. And that for me was a really important lesson. It was the first thing that started to change everything for me, because I thought, well, wow, if I can do that, and I didn't believe I could, what else can I do that I'm currently holding myself back from?
That comes to my one of my questions about you having like almost like an epiphany, an aha moment. So that it then, that moment when you got past that breaking point and you realized, wow, I just managed that.
Well, I've had 3 profound ones since then. That was the first. I don't know why I started martial arts. Like, literally, somebody posted a Bruce Lee video to my Facebook wall. Can't even remember who it was, but he was doing the 1-inch punch and lighting matchsticks on fire in midair with his and all this crazy stuff. And I don't know what it was, but in that moment when I saw that, I just decided. It was like it came to me from nowhere. I just said, right, I'm going to do this. I've had enough of the excuses. I've had enough of like, I haven't got time, I haven't got the money. I'm just going to find a school and I'm going to go. And even that was just crazy, because I did the research. I found this antiquated website where it told me my nearest school was over in Mull, about 45-minute drive from me. And, you know, there's a school down the road, 15 minutes away, but I didn't find that. Going to that school and meeting the people I did there really set me up on my journey to become not only an amazing martial artist, but an amazing human being in so many other ways. You know, that
and
really,
you are, yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that.
I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet or be egotistical, but I know where I was and I know where I am today. And that's not to say that I'm a finished product or anything like that. I'm absolutely not. I've still got so many faults and so many things to iron out. But compared to where I was, like, it's a monumental shift.
Yeah.
But that process of starting the martial arts and winning those medals, that was epiphany number 1. Because I then realized that I've been holding myself back in so many ways just because of the way I was thinking. And so I realized I made it my mission from that point forwards to seek out the things I thought I couldn't do. There's a great quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, which goes somewhere along the lines of, you must do the things you think you cannot do. And that has become my motto ever since winning those 2 first medals in 2013.
I love that. That's nice. That's nice. I really like that. There's one that kind of relates a bit more to me, but it's from Jack London about basically you play a bad hand well, and it's basically like a game of cards. So whatever you're dealt with, play that hand well. And I think very similar in the sense that you've just got to just go out there and just do it no matter what. And I mean, we did a very similar thing, didn't we? When you were one of my mountaineering buddies when we climbed Mount Snowdon, and my mindset was like, fuck, I can't do this. But I said, I'm gonna bloody just do it. And this is from someone coming from a sedentary lifestyle, very overweight. I lost 2 stone in 6 weeks. Um, and it was a complete shocker to even get to the top. And you remember me right at the top, the last few steps, I couldn't even lift my legs.
But
And
you did.
I did, yeah, I did. It was so hard getting it above a pebble that big. I say a pebble, it wasn't even a stone. It was a little thin pebble, and I couldn't lift my leg up it. And I was just like, I can't do it. I literally had nothing left because there was a peak, a summit, and I thought that's where we are. That's it. We got to the top of there, absolutely shattered, and then I could just see another 5 miles before the next summit, just over that ridge, and that just like it was just like I just can't do this. But the thing is, having people like yourself around me, and our good friend Kevin, who actually now lives near me in Worcester, so we've got to meet up really soon. Was really, 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 really powerful to people like me because I lived a sedentary life. I say sedentary. I used to be very into football, playing many football teams locally. I was left and right footed, so I did quite a lot as a kid. But then life takes over. Business, worked at the BBC, put on weight after my son was disabled, and the stress and everything like that kind of piles on you. And even recently, some recent sad news has like thrown me off track. So it's really important, and I can really connect with actually having this strong, I wouldn't say willpower, but I'd say it is a mindset, but not a willpower as such. It's almost like this is a thing you have to do. Willpower says you're fighting something you can't do, but we can all do it, which is what you guys teach and in your business coaching and so on. And the proof was in the pudding with me on the summit is an example of that, and you, where you're like, overweight, you said, and you didn't do martial arts and you finally did it. I do coaching as well. I do mentorship with my mentees. And even before I started that, there was a blocker there thinking, I can't do it. We have this imposter syndrome that everyone has it in all our mentorships. Everyone has it. And yet you got to bear in mind, Richard Branson had that, Bill Gates had that. This is normal. You're just fearful. You want to give so much value. It's very hard to not, to not feel that way when you want to give so much value. So yeah, no, I really believe in all that. And it was a massive aha moment for me. So I can relate to your aha moment in your life. It definitely connects with me massively, and I think everyone watching and listening would be definitely relating to that, because there's so many different people. I can see actually a lot of people watching at the moment, quite a lot, and they're from very different backgrounds, very, very different backgrounds. And all these people might think, oh, I can't do that, but they got to try. I mean, we didn't take the train up, did we? We were right at the bottom of Mount Snowdon. We went up. I had friends literally going, I put the photo up and they go, oh, so you took the train then? Straight away, they just jumped straight in there. You took the train. Oh, did you start halfway up there? Did you start on the easiest route and all this kind of stuff? But, oh, man, it's just like, it was hard. It was hard. And you guys took a nice diversion, didn't you, Jamie?
Maybe. Just we took the simple way down. We didn't get lost at all. But your journey, Mike, has been phenomenal. Since summiting Snowdon together, it was the 2nd of January, so right at the start of the year. That was such a powerful experience, for you as much as it was for me and everybody else in that group. And to start the year achieving something like that, especially coming from where you were coming from and some others, it was like, wow, if I can do that, what else can I do? And it just sets you up for the year and gets you fired up and ready. And when you smash through your limiting beliefs like that, it's really, really powerful for your mindset. And
it was powerful for others as well. That's what I found. I mean, it created a group that I'm not engaging as much because I've pulled out a bit myself. And again, it means re-engaging. And this is the thing with this sort of stuff. You can't let go. You have to keep re-engaging in it. And I'm literally just naturally a group of over 30 people. We created a WhatsApp group called No More Chains. I created, and people just wanted to join me, saying, "Well done, wow!" And they see my big fat belly hanging on social media, going from that to like a bit, less. And in 6 weeks, it's just crazy. And I put a little bit of weight back on, but I vowed I'm never going to go to what I was. And then I'm already back on it. Lost a few pounds already, but it's a slow game I'm playing now. I'm not doing this great big. I'm doing lifestyle, but realistic lifestyle changes at the minute. I'm trying to keep it that way. I don't know. I am an all or nothing kind of guy though, so it might not work for me this way. I might have to just go back to the all do it all. And quite honestly, I felt personally more alive, eating healthy, being outside. I mean, it was such an amazing feeling, and it really does interlink with your business. Yes. And I think Lewis Howes, famous author and podcaster and everything else in America, he said the same thing. There's a massive link between your health and wealth and success. And he really believes in that, which is, it rings in my brain, it rings in my head literally, and I'm really determined to really get fully back on track, because like I said, if I'm being totally honest, I've come off track a bit, and it was through a bit more sadness that come our way in the family. But yeah, it's really key to optimizing, and so I can understand why you got all these different areas that you touch in on a business, because I think, well, not I think, I know it makes a massive difference. Definitely. We've got a few more comments here. So inspirational, Michael, from Helena Beck. Thank you, Helen. We've got quite a lot of people say, we've got Ali, Iwona, Costas, Joe Johnson, Mark Solis, Liam Pierce, Karen Hill, Chris Bunn, Paul Rawlings, Damien Mark Barry, George Theodosu, Stacey Sharp, Stacey Mitchell, Stephen Lay, all these people watching. So hey guys, Neil, Reed, Joe Adset, Daniel, Rebecca Princess, Simon Walter, loads of us. And Simon Walter's a great guy. He's on our coaching, really great guy, and his beautiful wife. Yeah, we'll have to catch up with them. And actually, I won't mind getting them on the podcast. So Simon, if you're still watching, mate, I want to get you guys on the podcast as well. I think Emma Garcia has just joined as well. So I think basically, if you could give 3 key tips for people starting off on their own, and I say starting off on their own, wanting to optimize on their own before they brought someone else in like you, what could they do that could benefit them? Ideally, there's obviously different areas and different levels where, quite frankly, the best thing to benefit them would be to bring in a specialist like you, quite frankly. But the people that want to sort of like make their lives a little bit easier, what 3 areas would you say they should focus on first?
Well, it really does depend what type of business and what size of business, more specifically what we're talking about. So, are we talking about a kind of my sweet spot, the 500K plus revenue, or are we talking?
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's just pick one of them. We'll just go with the 500K plus revenue a year.
Yeah, so it really is then, for those types of businesses, it's about the first 3 steps of my 6-step system. It's structure, it's scoring, and it's systems. Once you've got those 3 things in place, you've got massive accountability, you've defined success and failure in the business and for each role of the business, and you've got a very clear way to communicate strategy down the chain, but then feedback on how that strategy is working back up the chain. Once you clearly got that set out and you've defined the organizational structure, you've set the numbered KPIs, and all KPIs, they've got to have a number, they've got to be specific and tangible. Once you've defined all that, then you can start to build the systems and the processes that produce consistent results, and consistent results relating to those KPIs. So whether that's profitability, whether it's cash flow, whether it's amount of sales booked by a sales rep or number of appointments and all this kind of stuff, like those particulars are going to vary and depend on your business and your preferences and what your definition of success is. But at the end of the day, if you can just follow the first 3 steps of that system, then you're already going to have so much more accountability, so much more of a strong culture in the business. And the most important part about that is that you're going to be able to, each of those KPIs, once they're done and once they're in that structure, then becomes a link on a chain. If you imagine a long length of chain, metal chain, what that process does is it allows you to pinpoint which links aren't working. Where are the weak links? Where are the ones that could be stronger? Because until you've done that process, it's very hard to identify that and hold people responsible. But when you do and you can, that's when you can start to say, right, well, that link and that link are weak. Let's swap those out and put strong ones in. Let's change the system. Let's adapt the processes so that we can get even better results in those areas. It's all about removing excuses, and following the first 3 steps of that system removes all excuses for everybody in the business to underperform.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great advice. I mean, I interviewed before your interview a lady called Natalia, and I won't even say her surname because I made a real fail of trying to say it. It's got rolling R's in it and everything like that. Lovely, 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 lovely lady. And we talked about burnout, and that's why my podcast is about business, marketing, and mindset. So the people I bring in are people that I think can help my audience in those 3 areas, which I think are very key areas in life and business. And the burnout thing was really, really important. She used to work for World Banks and the European Commission and so on. And she's now focusing all her efforts in helping women, mainly executive women, but she does it for everyone. But that's her micro niche from burnout. And she's going to be catering to big business basically and helping them within their business. Now this lady and what she does is really powerful stuff. And she had a real deep story what happened to her, and she had a complete breakdown. I've had something similar myself. Now these optimize, and the reason I'm bringing her up is the optimization that you guys talk of and getting the structure in place is exactly what people need to prevent that in many ways, isn't it? Because once you've got these things and systems in place, the scaling doesn't have to be so overwhelming, does it?
No, and every aspect of the business actually becomes less overwhelming. And when you look at, excuse me, when you look at fear, anxiety, and overwhelm, they're all caused by one simple thing, and that is a lack of knowing, a lack of certainty in some area or another. If you're nervous or anxious, it's because you don't know something, whether you don't know what an outcome is going to be. You don't have all the information that's going to guarantee a particular result. Whatever it might be, it always comes down to a lack of knowledge. So when you put the structure and the systems in place, what you're effectively doing is you're defining exactly how everything's going to work to make sure that the right people have the right information at the right time. And this is one of the things that my clients say is that they have, like, one of the biggest things about life and in business is that it gets harder and harder every day that you're alive. If you're expecting life to get easier or business to get easier as you grow or get bigger or get better, it ain't. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to happen. What's guaranteed is that it's going to get harder. Much like in a martial arts or a boxing match, the reward for beating an opponent is to face a bigger, stronger, faster, more competent opponent. You get a bigger challenge, basically, right? And it's the same in life and business, is every hurdle you overcome, your reward for overcoming it is to then be presented with a bigger and badder challenge. So the key to success in life and business is quite simply, you have to get better faster than life or business gets harder. If you can do that, and that's where coaches come in, is really expediting that process. But if you can do that, then you're going to win. So the systems and the processes, what it does is it gives you certainty around how something needs to be handled. One of my clients said to me about a HR issue they were having with a member of staff a few months ago, that it had the potential to blow up into something quite nasty. But what they said was, actually, I'm so much less stressed about this than I've been about much smaller HR issues in the past, because of the structure that we've worked on together and put into place in my business. Even though this is potentially quite nasty and could be quite a drawn out process, I'm not fearful. I'm not anxious or nervous about it. I'm not overwhelmed, because I know that there's a process to follow. It's in black and white in the business. And all we need to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's done. Whatever the outcome is, it's done. We've protected ourselves because we've got a system that's going to produce a consistent quality result. And so if you're facing overwhelm in your business, if you're fearful, if you're anxious, that's a surefire sign that either you need to work with someone like me, or you need to take a good, long, hard look at the structure, the systems, and the KPIs in your business and define them in a much more strategic way so that you can alleviate that anxiety, you can alleviate that overwhelm by using the system as a support.
Yeah, and that's great advice. I mean, I think a lot of people don't even know where they stand, if you know what I mean. Some people feel they've got things handled, and yet they don't know what they don't know at the end of the day, do they? And sometimes, that's why I always suggest like tapping into mentorship in some form anyway, because people have gone and stepped certain steps that you haven't even taken. And so because you haven't taken it, you're not even aware of them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So how can you even plan, optimize, prepare without even taking certain steps? But so when you get someone in like a mentee, a mentor to mentee you, the great thing about that is they can open your mind to certain aspects that you would not have even sort of like touched on. So I personally think it's really important to connect with people like yourself. You're a great guy, great friend. We've got more comments. So Natalia, optimization equals balance and time for ourselves. So this is the previous guest I had. And thank you, Michael and Jamie. Yeah, it's true. And we've got another friend called Natasha. The secret is to build your resilience and build an amazing team around you. Very true, Natasha. She's a lovely lady as well. I won't mind getting her on too. So, I mean, I actually think this has been very valuable to the people listening in. And I just want to say a massive thank you, Jamie. I just want to ask you one quick thing, actually. I've seen a photo of you, Jamie, with really long hair, mate. Is that really you, or was that photoshopped?
No, that's really me. So
It's like really long hair and really long. Was it? I think it was a beard from memory. Do you have a beard or something?
Yeah. Listen, I was a bona fide legitimate rock star, mate. When I literally dropped
You
out.
still are. You still got the mohawk. You still are. That's what I love about you. You're you, and you are a serious businessman, but you're still you, and that's where I connect. And I teach this in when I do like marketing and stuff, and people getting themselves out there. They need to stay them, not be someone else they're not. I mean, when you look at like true entrepreneurs that are really making it, they're not suited and booted like you might think. I mean, you look at Zuckerberg, you look at RIP Steve Jobs. They simplify their lives. They don't go out of the way. And I got a lot of respect for people that actually don't feel the need to put on an image to be something they're not. They just like to be themselves and do what they like and enjoy. I do agree that you should present in certain circumstances. I don't dispute that, in certain circumstances, but to be it all the time because it's become your mask, I'm kind of personally dead against. I think it's really important to be you. It doesn't matter what, guru or mentor or whatever says, that's what I believe, and that's me being me. So I've got much respect for you being the same way.
Yeah, 100%. Like you've got to be authentic, and at the end of the day, it's not about connecting with everybody. You're never ever going to connect with everybody.
You don't want to, do you? That's the point. Yeah,
you don't want to with the right people, and that might be a handful of people. And look, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, Mike. Like, you don't need to connect with all of those people.
I know, mate. It's crazy.
That is a massive amount of people. And when you're,
let's hope they all tune into Mike Drops Up Close on iTunes right now. Can I have a little quick plug, actually, and I won't mind you giving a bit of a plug how people can connect with you. I'll drop some links in that I've got of yours, Jamie, as well. I've got a really amazing guest coming soon. He's a multi-millionaire and smashing it in the marketing world. And it's really rare getting someone like him on here. And he is, again, someone that's very true to himself. So I'm very honored that he's been going to come on to this show really soon.
He's so down to earth and so on point, isn't he?
Yeah. He is. Yeah, and there's like so many, and we've had Neil. You're talking Neil Patel. He's already been on. Neil Patel. Yeah, I've already had Neil Patel. There's another guy, and tonight we've got another really great guy, Reggie Bates, who used to be. He's a mindset guy. He's a coach and everything like that. He's huge in America. He's done a lot of like support and consulting for like top people in America. Tony Robbins' right-hand man for many years. If people don't know who Tony Robbins is, he is like crazy big in terms of like personal development. So this guy I'm interviewing tonight at 8 p.m. tonight is Reggie Bates. He's a really amazing guy. I'll throw some links in and a bit more of an intro about him later on. But I want you to tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you. I'll throw in some links that I've got of yours. And in fact, I mean, which links do you want me to throw in? You've got quite a few. I mean, Which one's the best one? Should we just is your Facebook maxed out like mine, or is
It's
it
getting
not?
very close. Yeah, it's getting very close. The best thing to do if you want to connect with me and follow me on Facebook, especially for the business type content, is to connect with my page. So that's at
Cool.
the Jaime Keeling. If you search that handle on every social media, that's pretty much what I go by. So my primary platforms are LinkedIn and Facebook. So please do come and connect with me on either of those. As I say, at the Jaime Keeling. I've got a free business coaching group as well, the Better Business Academy. So you
And
can
it's
search.
awesome. It's awesome. I got to say that it's a really good academy. And Jamie does a lot of his own lives in that as well, and some really quality value you get from that. So yeah, no, absolutely connect with Jamie. He's a top guy, and I'm happy to say he's a genuine friend that I am proud to know. Definitely.
Thank you, mate. Likewise. And the only other thing to shout out is about my podcast, Optimize Me Now. It's all about peak performance with a big focus on business. But I have amazing people on there, from business people, marketeers. I just want to get you on there, Michael.
Why not? Why not? Yeah, definitely.
But everything from martial artists and people who coaches and all that kind of stuff. And it's all about interviewing the lesser known people in the world who've got great stories and got great value to share. I'm up to over 50 episodes now, been going for just over a year, listened to in 33 countries worldwide, thousands of downloads. So if you're interested in kind of the stuff that I've talked about on the show today and anything to do with peak performance, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, then go and check that out. It's up on iTunes. Just search Optimize Me Now and like, share, and subscribe.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for coming to Mic Drops Up Close. I have to drop the mic. And we really appreciate it, buddy. You are a legend. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for listening in and watching even. This podcast is not going to be edited like all my podcasts. We'll just put the intro in the front, the outro at the end, everything in the middle, including all my slurs, all my swearing, everything stays. Sorry, but that's how it goes. It's real. This is how it is. If you want to listen to real content, not optimized fake stuff, not Optimize Me, I'm talking about edited content, then seriously you need to tune into Mic Drops Up Close. Thank you again, Jamie. You've been a legend. Really appreciate it, buddy. You take care, and I'll speak to you soon, mate. All right.
Thank you, dude. You are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you. Take care, buddy. See you, mate.
Thanks, buddy. Take care now.
See you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.